Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Today would be the fourth session of our GSDC Global Summit on Quality Excellence and Sustainability. And we are so happy to see you all. My name is Settle, and I will be your moderator and host. And I'm joined by my co-moderator, Intirenla, who will be available on chat for any assistance you may require or any queries you may have. We have seen and we have witnessed and heard two amazing speakers in the past 3 days on very powerful and knowledgeable topics, and we are so honored to have them. Today, also, we will be listening to another powerful speaker. Just before I introduce them, I would like to cover up some of the introductions and wait for some more participants to join in. To those of you who have joined us in the past 3 sessions, thank you so much for joining again. And to those of you who are joining today for the first time, a very big welcome from GSDC and IQA team. First of all, let me introduce our hosting organization, GSDC. So we are known as Global Skill Development Council, and we are a vendor-agnostic international credentialing and certification body. We have had over 90,000 professionals find credibility in the top emerging and skill-based certifications. The portfolios that we have are around 70 plus certification portfolios and are recognized by leading MNC organizations. The GSDC is also proud to be accredited by ANSI and ABICB. We have also connected with over 100 plus global universities, and our offices are located in Singapore, Switzerland, and the US. We have partnered with over 50 plus training organizations who add value to the training programs accredited by GSDC. If you'd like to learn more about GSDC and our services, please do have a look on our website and connect with us on LinkedIn. We'll be happy to connect with you as well. For this event, we have partnered with our Indian Quality Association team, and we are so proud and honored to be an association with them to host this organization. I would like to call upon anyone from the IQA team if you would like to do the introduction. Maybe Anand, you would like, okay, maybe Nidhi, yes. Yes,
Hi,
please
everyone.
take your time.
Am I visible? I don't know. Hi, everyone.
Yes, we can.
My name is Nidhi Khandelwal, and I'm a proud member of India Quality Association here. IQA is a non-profit organization. Informally, we have been working together as a team for the last 5 years, and formally, we are celebrating our 3rd anniversary here. Our team comprised of our convener, Mr. Anand Prakash, guided by our mentor, Mr. S.M. Bala, and is managed by a group member of steering committee. Let me give you a view of our mission and mission statements. Our vision is to be the prime mover for enhancing and sustaining value realization in quality management and business excellence through identification and harnessing the right and relevant methods, global best practices and technologies across domains, geographies, and businesses. Our mission is to enable organizations to achieve excellence in business and operations through context-relevant quality management and business excellence frameworks, methods, and initiatives. We also would focus to provide a platform for the quality management and business excellence professionals to share, learn, evolve, and adopt successful best practices towards enriching their professional journey and contribution to the industry.
Sorry, Nidhi, you are muted now. Nidhi, if you can hear me, you are muted. Nidhi, you are still muted if you are still talking. Yes.
Am I audible now, Sitol?
Yes, you are audible.
Not sure how far was I audible, but I was talking about the foundation pillars of our IQA journey. And we're talking about competency development, standard and model support, knowledge management, quality culture promotion, portfolio management, and rising to the occasion. And if you are in need of any such support in your professional journey, please reach out to us at IQA, and we'll be happy to help you all. And I would want to thank GSDC for arranging this session in partnership with us. And we have had wonderful 3-day sessions here. Looking forward to the day 4 session from Haripriya. Over to you, Sitolo. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Nidhi. Thanks for that brief introduction. So if you would like to connect with Nidhi, with the IQA team, please do have a look at their website, and their email also is provided on the chat box. You can click there. And yes, thank you so much to the IQA team for being in association with GSDC. Here, quickly, I'd like to give an appreciation to our official media partner, World Press Hub. Thank you for your support as always. And moving on to the GSDC certification portfolios, if you'd like to have a look, please do on the link shared on the chat box. We are working currently on more than 70 plus certification portfolios. These certifications hold lifetime validity and are globally recognized. So if you would like to have go on the path of any of these certifications, do reach out to us, and we would be so happy to guide you along. A unique feature about the GSDC certification is that we have a lifelong membership, which applies to all the lists that is listed on the screen here right now. So if you'd like to learn more, please do reach out to us. We'll be happy to guide you through. A quick appreciation to our volunteer mentors who were so kind to accept our volunteer invitations. Thank you so much for helping us spread the news about this event, and we'll be looking forward to working with you again. An information that we will be having a quiz again today as well, and we will also announce the winner of yesterday's quiz winner. So please do stay with us until the end. Moving on to the most important part of the session, we have a very dynamic speaker on our midst today, and we are so honored to have her. She is Haripriya Devanathan, the Head Business Continuity Risk and Compliance and ISO 22301 Program Manager from DXC Technology. Haripriya is a member of Business Continuity Institute with over 23 years career, having core expertise in planning, designing, program execution, maintenance, and testing of enterprise business continuity management. Thank you so much, Haripriya, for joining our panel, and also sending big appreciation to the DXC Technology for nominating Haripriya for this panel. We are so happy to be in association with you guys. Just before Haripriya takes over, I would like to inform that unfortunately today our speaker is a bit tight on her time, but so she will do the presentation. However, the Q&A will have to be, we might have to skip the Q&A for today. However, no, please do not worry. We will take the questions on our LinkedIn group. So you can leave your questions on the LinkedIn group, and our speaker will be so happy to come back to that and answer all your questions as well. So yeah, Haripriya, I won't take any more of your time now. You can go ahead and start sharing.
Sure. I hope I am audible and I am visible.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Setalu. Thank you, GSDC, and thank you for organizing this session today. Let me share my screen, and please let me know if you're able to see the presentation. Please give me a moment. I hope you all can see the screen, the presentation.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. So once again, thank you so much for inviting me in to discuss on this topic today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, for taking your time to join this session. I hope I can complete whatever points that I wanted to bring up for our discussion today well within time. So we can have some time left for few questions that I can take. And as Setalu mentioned, I'll be happy to take any further questions if we are not able to discuss them today over the LinkedIn platform. I am Haripriya. I work for DXC Technology. I head the Business Continuity Risk and Compliance, and I also lead the ISO 22301 program. So today, the topic that we have been given for discussion is, can your clients trust your defense against the cyber attacks? So when I went through the topic, three things came out, and I thought that would be the context of our discussion today. So one is on the ISO 27001 2022 standard, the new version of the standard that has been released last year. And the second component of the topic is about the defense against the cyber attack. And the third one is about the client's trust. So we can set this as the context of our discussion today, and we can see from the standard standpoint what is different from the 2013 version that the 2022 version has brought in scope, and what are all the controls that could possibly support against the cyber attack. We can have a look into a couple of them, and what it means to build the client's trust in the context of the standard and the defense against the cyber attack. So when we look at the new version of the standard, the 2022 version, I just thought of briefly giving an overview about the changes. So if you see the clauses of the standard, so we all know all these new standards are aligned with the Annex Excel. So we have the standardized the clauses that covers the various aspects of the standard. And overall, in all these clauses, if you see, I wouldn't say that there is a very drastic change or something that is totally different from the current 2013 version in what the new standard version has brought in. But there were a few things that came out startingly in the context of the topic that we are discussing today. But before that, let me just highlight those changes. One is on the clause 4.2, the understanding the needs and the expectations of the interested parties. There is one item that is added that requires analysis of which of the interested party requirements that must be addressed through the ISMS. So this particular aspect of understanding the requirements of the interested party and analyzing those requirements and those that needs to be addressed through the ISMS has been explicitly called out in clause 4.2. And in clause 4.4, a phrase has been added requiring processes and the interactions as part of the ISMS. And in clause 5.3, the organizational roles, responsibilities, and authorities, a phrase has been added to clarify the communication of the roles done internally within the organization. And in 6.2, there is an item that is added that requires objectives to be monitored. So the monitoring of the objectives is something that is also being, you can obviously see in this new version of the standard. And there is another clause that has been added on the management of change, if I may say so, called the planning of changes. So when these changes are being introduced in the management system within the organization, it calls for an effective planning and how those changes in the ISMS needs to be done in a planned manner. So this is a new clause that has been introduced in the standards. And in 7.4, one of the item has been deleted, which is required to set up the processes for communication. And in 8.1, operational planning and control, new requirements are added for establishing the criteria for security processes and for implementing the processes according to the criteria. And in the same clause, there is also a requirement to implement the plans for achieving the objectives that has been deleted. Now, in the clause 9.3 management review, there is a added item that clarifies that the inputs from the interested parties needs to be about their needs and expectations, and that needs relevant to the ISMS. So this has to be part of the management review. And in the clause 10, there is no change, but there is a swapping of the items within the subclauses. So overall, if you see from the standard, there is not drastic change, but there is rephrasing of some of the requirements. But two things that we can see that is specifically, that is standing out in the context of our topic today is analysis is about the interested party and their requirements. So customers are one of the interested parties, and the requirements of the customers have to be documented and analyzed and need to be addressed and need to be looked into which of those requirements have to be addressed through the ISMS, and establishing the criteria for those security processes, and inputs from these interested parties need to be part of the management review. So with this input, we can also see what are all the changes that have been brought in the Annex A, which is the most important component of the standard. So overall, there were 114 standards in the 2013 version, but it has been reduced to 93 controls in the new version of the standard. And if you know, we know there were about 14 control areas or sections in the 2013 version. So you can see I've just jotted them in the slide here. And these have been reduced, and the regrouping of the controls have been brought into 4 major sections or control areas: the organizational controls, people controls, physical controls, and technological controls. So these are the 4 major groupings under which the controls have been aligned under. 35 of the controls from the 2013 version are retained, 23 of them have been renamed, and 57 controls have been merged into 24. And so these overall don't really change the essence of what has been defined in the previous version, but there is some amount of retention, renaming, merging, and all of that has happened in order to logically group them into these control areas. And there is one control that has been split into 2. We will have a look at that. And there are 11 new controls that have been added into the standard. So that is something a little bit of significance, and we can have a look at what these changes in the controls that are specific in the context of our discussion today. I hope my pace is okay. Am I too fast, too slow? Am I audible?
For me, it's perfect. Yes, audible. For me, it's perfect. If anyone has any comments, you can use the chat box. Yes, perfect.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so if we can have a look at the control that has been split, there was one control, A.18.2.3, the technical compliance review. So that stated information systems shall be regularly reviewed for compliance with the organization's security policies and standards. So this is regarding the review process that needs to be established to ensure the information systems are in compliance with the organization policies and standards. But now this has been split into 2. One is 5.3.6, which largely is aligned with the same requirement on reviewing the organization's implementation and the controls with reference to the organization's information security policy or the topic specific policies, the rules and the standards. So all of these shall be regularly reviewed is what has been introduced as 5.3.6, and as 8.8, management of the technical vulnerabilities. So this also calls for analyzing the technical vulnerabilities of the information system, and it calls for gathering information about such vulnerabilities of the information systems, and these has to be analyzed, and the organization's exposure to such vulnerabilities. So what are all the threats that can exploit these vulnerabilities? That needs to be evaluated and appropriate measures shall be taken. So these two are complementing each other to meet with the requirement of the 18.2.3, and they have been split into two. So essentially, there is an emphasis on having organizations, policies, rules, standards, as part of the information security management system, and then establishing, identifying the vulnerabilities in the system and obtaining the information about those technical vulnerabilities and analyzing them and evaluating them and also taking appropriate measures to address those vulnerabilities. If we look at those 11 new controls that has been introduced, so let me just go through those 11 controls, and then two of them relate to the topic that we are discussing today. So one is very significant on the threat intelligence. So a control 8.5.7, threat intelligence, this has been introduced and states information relating to the information security threats shall be collected and analyzed. Let me just try to remove this. Okay, to produce a threat intelligence. So this is something very significant that has been introduced in the new standard. So let us have a detailed look into what exactly is threat intelligence and how an organization can use this particular control requirement to build the defense against the cyber attacks and also build the client's trust. The another control that has been introduced is 5.23. It's about the information security for use of cloud services. So again, this details about the processes for the acquisition, the use and management, and also the exit from the cloud services within the organization's information security requirements, how these services have to be used from the acquisition till exit, and how these has to be monitored. So this is also from the cloud services platform perspective. This has been specifically introduced. And there is another on the business continuity aspect of the ICT. So the readiness of the information systems needs to be planned. The necessary controls have to be implemented to ensure if there is a threat that exploits the vulnerability in the system, and how such events that might be caused, such incidents that might be caused due to the threat, how those controls have to be implemented and how those controls have to be maintained and tested based on the business continuity objectives of the organizations and the ICT continuity requirements. So this is also something that has been explicitly introduced in this version. And there is, so these are, so we saw 4 control groupings. So this is related to the organizational control areas. There is one control from the physical security, which calls for continuous monitoring of unauthorized physical access. So in the previous version, there is a physical security related control requirements, but this one is very clearly, explicitly mentioned about the continuous monitoring of unauthorized physical access. So, and the remaining that you can see here is about the technological controls. I couldn't see any control introduced related to the people area. These new controls are all around the organizational, the physical, and the technological. From the technological control standpoint, you can see there are about 7 controls that has been introduced. So one is on the configuration management, about how the hardware, software, the services, and the network configurations shall be established, documented, implemented, again monitored and reviewed. And there are certain controls which is specific about how the data that is processed within the organization needs to be masked. So the data masking requirements as part of the organization's policies with respect to the access controls and the business requirements, the legal and the registration requirements, the privacy requirements, and all of that. That needs to be taken into consideration when implementing the controls with respect to the data masking and also the data leakage prevention. How these controls and preventive measures need to be applied to the systems and all the networks and the devices that process these data, especially sensitive data. And also the monitoring activities with respect to the networks, the systems, the applications, and any anomalous behavior that needs to be monitored as part of the monitoring activities. And there are two specific controls in terms of how effective controls can be implemented to address these requirements. From one is on the web filtering. So there is an explicit control that talks about how an organization can manage, reduce, and reduce the exposure to the malicious content with respect to the external websites that can be accessed from within the network, and also from the secure coding principles, perspective on the software development environment. So, and there is also a control about the information deletion, how the that needs to be done. So these are all the new controls that has been introduced. So which is more towards how the information processing has to be looked into in terms of proactively identifying the threats, implementing the controls, data protection, monitoring, measurement, analysis, and reporting. So two controls, as I said, I thought we can take for more in-depth understanding in the context of the topic that we are discussing today. So one is on the threat intelligence. The other one is on the ICT readiness from the business continuity standpoint. Okay. Threat intelligence, so as we all know, is about gathering information, analyzing the information about how the threat actors, adopt a modus operandi or adopt a specific way of attacking the network, the information processing systems, and gather or create a malicious attack on the systems. So if we look into this particular requirement of the standard, we can just see that there needs to be a process organization has to implement in terms of how these threat actors, these possible threats can be, evidence-based information can be gathered within the organization, internally as well as externally. And for example, if I was just thinking if I can give a real-time example, maybe a layman example kind of a thing. Let us assume a community, a city or a town where there are, millions of people residing. And within the community, there is an incident that is being reported that, a certain person seems to be gaining entry into a house by, maybe by ringing the doorbell. And, when the people open the door, they just exploit the vulnerable nature of the people by demonstrating a situation where they need certain help, or they hold on to a kid who is crying and they need help. And people who are vulnerable and who want to respond to that situation, believing that it is true, and the doors are open, and the person is able to gain entry and attack and take away, whatever valuables and pose some threat into the household. Now, if this person is able to do this in multiple places, then we see there is a modus operandi that is being adopted by the person. And when several people start getting affected by this kind of an act, which is motive based, then that gets reported to the legal authorities, the police. And once an investigation starts and they say that there is something happening in the city and some group of people or an individual is adopting a certain method to gain access into vulnerable households and then do some looting or pose some threat, then that information is gathered. There are evidences for such incident that is being happening, and proactively to prevent these people to go and further attack other households, an announcement is being made by the police. So we also receive a lot of information, in SMS nowadays or in WhatsApp saying this kind of, threat is being, adopted. This kind of modus operandi is being adopted by people who have this malicious intent, and people are warned to take adequate measures and take some impose some controls, and in this case they are advised not to open the door and check before they can even further allow such people to gain access. So if we take this kind of a real-time example that happens all over the world, so here we know that there is a ongoing activity, there is a threat, and there is some amount of evidence-based information how this particular threat operation is being executed, and what exactly people or can do in order to further prevent this kind of activity from happening. So if we apply this kind of analogy in the information processing systems, so there are external platforms that can provide this kind of information based on the lot of incidents that is happening, the cyber attacks, and which are context based, which could be situation based, and these information which are available externally can be gathered from the sources, from the authentic sources, and internally within the organization there may not be intentional attack, but there could be a lot of unintentional attack. So if these information, as and when they are available, when gathered, they can be stored in a centralized location. So the first thing is to keep identifying these kind of threats that are happening in the world based on the statistics, based on the information that is available. And these information around the threat need to be gathered and collected in a centralized location. So this could be called a threat intelligence platform. And once this information is available to the organization, the pattern of these incidents that are happening need to be looked into, and the trends, and what are all the risks that can happen out of this kind of threats, and what are all the vulnerabilities within the organization, within the system, that can be exploited by these threat actors. These information can be analyzed either through manual processes or through automated tools. And once this kind of a pattern and the trends are observed, an actionable item can be taken, and the risks that are arising out of these kind of the potential the threats and the risks can be mitigated by implementing the appropriate controls. So, and once this is reported to the the organization, this has to be further disseminated to the relevant stakeholders, if required to the customers as well. So so this is one aspect of that particular requirement 8.5.7, that every organization that has established a management system, information security management system, or considering designing and implementing the information security management system has to look into. So the threat intelligence platform and the management lifecycle around how these information has to be collated, analyzed, reported, and disseminated is one crucial input or the requirement from the standard that organization has to look into. And when we talk about this threat intelligence, there are different levels again within the organization that needs to be considered. So one is at the operational level. So we have the real-time information, just as a simple example that we look into. So what is happening around in the world currently? What kind of threat are being imposed? What kind of malicious attack is happening? So these are at the operational levels, and how these threat actors are operating, and who are all the threat actors, and how these these are being reported. So at the operational level, this is based on the real-time information that is happening across that needs to be addressed. And at the tactical level, based on the threat intelligence platform the organization has constructed, and with the real-time information that keeps coming in based on the current cyber attacks and other threats, proactive development of security controls also need to be built into the system. So it cannot be reactive all the time, that we understand something, an attack is happening, and then we look into the system to see, okay, the organization might have been already affected, or we see that there is a huge vulnerability, and there is the possibility that this threat can impact, and we don't have a control already, and then reactively we just go and see. It has to be proactive. So that is the reason when we are looking into the patterns of the behavior from the threat intelligence platform, the organization at the strategic level has to have this kind of a landscape. What are all the possible emerging threats, and how the organization security architecture is built in order to proactively see well in advance. So based on these kind of attacks that has happened in the past, that we are currently seeing that is happening worldwide, what are all the possible activities that these threat actors can get into? So this kind of a landscape, in terms of the emerging threats, that needs to be looked into at the strategic level, and how this has to be aligned with the organization strategy with reference to the information security management system implementation. So from these three levels perspective, this whole threat intelligence management lifecycle has to be operated. And so these are all the critical aspects. So one is the compliance to the control, the 8.8 as we just saw. And the other is about the integrated risk management approach. So we'll also talk about it in a while. And this also calls for a huge support from the management, and some amount of investment every organization has to consider in order to build this kind of environment. And of course, the right people with the right skills and the right processes have to be implemented. The right technology has to be used in order to build this kind of a threat intelligence platform. And this needs to be continuously monitored. It's not a one-time exercise when the management system is designed and implemented, but this has to be continuously monitored, and this has to be continuously revised and improved. And with this, the organization also has to consider the implementation of controls. So once the awareness on these emerging threats and all these aspects are available, they need to look into the controls. So an organization that has implemented the information security management system will have the statement of applicability, where all the controls are listed. And at the organization level, what are all the controls that are implemented in terms of the policies, the standards, and at the at every level, what the physical controls, all these sorry, the people level controls I'm sorry, technological controls. So all of these are documented in the statement of applicability. And not with and this alone is not enough to address this, but from the contractual standpoint, from the legal, regulatory, other aspects, the organization should also look into what are all the contracts they have across the customers, across the region, with respect to the information security requirements, data privacy requirements, and business continuity requirements, and whether such requirements are built into in terms of control implementation to ensure those contractual requirements have been adequately addressed. So this is also very important. So not just resting with the process of analyzing the threats and then having a risk management approach and identifying the risks, and then at the organization level having the policies and standards. But it is very important that the delivery teams are aware of the contractual requirements of the customer, and those specific requirements are adequately addressed as part of this whole process. And by doing all of these with only in reference to this particular control requirement, we can see that some amount of trust can be built in within the client. So one is the organization can go for the industry certification based on the standard which externally validates that this organization has complied with the information security requirement of the 27001 standard. And as part of that, they can demonstrate the threat intelligence systems and the processes. And there is also a strategic approach from the management perspective that has been implemented. So this can be well demonstrated by just through the certification process. And with this, there is a formal risk management system that will get implemented, and the risks will be mitigated. So this can also be demonstrated. And if the organization can also demonstrate that the contractual requirements have been taken into consideration by sharing with the customer that, the understanding that these are the contractual requirements and the organization have effectively implemented these controls through these processes, and by sharing the reports and periodical feedback. And that is where the interested party requirement, the clients being one of the interested parties, the organization is able to demonstrate that they have taken into consideration these requirements, and as part of the implementation of the management system and the related certification, these effective systems have been implemented, the risks are mitigated, the controls have been implemented, and there can also be a periodical review. And if, in spite of all these controls being implemented and continuously monitored, if there is an incident, then that can be transparently reported to the customer, to the extent of how the contractual agreements are in place. That can also build largely the trust in the minds of the customer that the organization is really serious about the requirements of the customer, not only from the delivery standpoint, from the SLAs and other aspects, but also in terms of how the information that is being processed, has been taken into consideration. Apart from all of these things, one important aspect is the employee awareness and trainings. So this is very important because behind all these effective systems and processes are the people. The people should be aware of all these requirements and the organization's policies, and what, especially if there is this kind of a threat intelligence platform, and how these are analyzed, and how these controls are implemented, and the related trainings, and when there is an incident, how employees have to respond to the incident, and what are their roles and responsibilities. So if this kind of awareness is built, and this can be demonstrated to the customer that the employees are, and especially in the context of worldwide organization getting into the hybrid model, or organization like DXC have taken the virtual first as the approach, where people work remote. This is much more gaining significance, that the clients have to be informed about how effectively these controls are in place, especially in such context of people working outside of the organization network, but still they are made aware of these controls, and thereby if there is any incident, that will also be reported. So this is one aspect of the standard I thought I would take for our discussion, which we can demonstrate to the customer in terms of how the organization can build defense against the cyber attack and thereby demonstrate to the customer and build their trust. The second aspect that I thought I would take from this standard is on the A.5.3, which is on the ICT readiness for business continuity, how the organization need to plan, implement, maintain, and test based on the business continuity objectives, their continuity requirements. So again, this particular control has to go through a certain life cycle around the business continuity. So if the organization is also looking into implementing the ISO 22301 standard, the latest, the 2019 version that we have, this will get formalized into the system. And if you can see, these two management systems always go hand into hand. Like if an organization is considering implementing these two ISO standards and the related management system and thereby the certification, an integrated approach has to be in place. So when we talk about the business continuity aspect, so there is again a certain life cycle that has to be adopted by the organization. So one is identification of the critical business systems and processes. So this is the starting point of what are all the critical business processes that are being performed. Probably if the organization is offering or delivering services out of multiple sites, multiple locations, or multiple countries across region. So for a particular customer, they need to identify the critical business process from each site, and as part of the business continuity life cycle, they need to first there is a different approach. Like some organizations choose to do the risk assessment as the first step, and then based on the outcomes they choose to do the business impact analysis and then the BCP. And there is another approach where the business impact analysis is done and then the risks are identified and thereby mitigated, and then the business continuity planning is documented. So if the organization has effectively implemented the threat intelligent management lifecycle, then there is enough amount of information that comes out from that aspect, and also from the other aspects of the broader aspects of the flood, fire, flu, and fury, under which any kind of incident that can impact the continuity of services can be aligned into. So with all these factors, these larger areas, and the outcomes of the risk assessment considering the threat, the risks can be looked into, and the organization can have an effective risk management program in place from the business continuity standpoint, and those risks can be, the controls can be implemented to mitigate the risk. Or if they see a specific situation where still there could be a residual risk of posing impact to the continuity of services, then that needs to be taken forward with the customer, and they need to discuss with the customer on the outcomes of the risk assessment, and that needs to get into the business impact analysis process. And as part of the business impact analysis process, if the organization is aligned with the ISO 22K requirements, then they have the standard requirements, a framework that can be built as part of the management system, where the critical parameters in terms of the RTOs, the MTPDs, the RPOs. So all of these inputs are to be considered as part of the business impact analysis, and thereby the right recovery strategy, the high level recovery strategy under these four broad areas of what if there is a the flood, or if there is a fire, or if there is a flu, or if there is a fury. So in any incident, like it can be even a cyber attack. So all of these can be considered in the broader category of the high-level recovery strategy and specific plans to recover the services from that particular location or the site, in spite of all these controls, all these risk management process, and how effectively the organization can recover and resume the operations without any impact within the defined RTO. So this is very important from the business continuity standpoint. The organization is able to demonstrate to the client that, okay, so we have a very robust program aligned with the information security management system of the 27001 2022 standard, and also from the 22301 2019 standard point of view. And there is a a very effective threat intelligence platform and a risk management approach, and there is a formal business impact analysis done. All the requirements of the customers are taken into consideration, and there is a classification of which of these services are critical to the business as well as the customer that are prioritized for the recovery, and which can, the order of priority of the services that needs to be recovered are all analyzed, and then there is the right strategy is in place, and there are adequate plans in place to recover these services as part of the contractual requirement. So once these plans are in place, the organization can test those plans. So there can be a simulated or even a real-time incident. So if there is a cyber attack, how that is impacting this particular customer, they can simulate, or based on any real-time incident, the organization can gather the information on how effective the plans, the recovery strategies and plans, were they able to meet with the RTOs or not, or was there a breach of the MTPD or otherwise, where was there any penalty clauses in place that the organization had to meet with any penalties. So based on these real-time incidents and outcomes, the information can again feed into the risk management process, and the business impact analysis and the business continuity strategies can be relooked into. And tabletop exercises are another effective way, where generally in a tabletop exercises, as we know, all the critical support people need to come together, and also the enabling functions, including the IT, the real estate, the facilities management people, the security teams, the legal, the HR function. So depending on what incident that is being considered for the exercise, these relevant functions within the organization have to participate in the tabletop exercise, and the results can be analyzed to proactively take back into the system to enhance and strengthen the controls. And the monitoring of the effectiveness of such BCM program is more important, and that calls for having some defined measures in place, and through effectiveness of these measures, the organization can monitor the program, and again the outcomes can be analyzed and if possible shared with the customer during periodical review that can strengthen the client's trust on the organization. And again, awareness and roles and responsibilities plays a very important role in this whole exercise. As we just discussed, the people behind all of these must be made aware of. Enough training has to be provided on the organization policies, on the information security and the BCM program. And people must know what are their roles and responsibilities prior, during and after disruption. So this is very important, so that when an incident happens or when there is a disruption, the organization can invoke the CMTs, the incident management process, the crisis management process, the crisis management teams can be in place. So all of these, but the people must be aware of, okay, there seems to be an incident, and what is my role and what am I supposed to do? Instead of waiting for further instructions from the manager, if they are made aware of the business continuity plan and what their specific roles, each and every single person working on that particular customer account or the contract must be made aware of their roles and responsibilities. And thereby, the organization can again build the client's trust by demonstrating that they have the robust business continuity management system in place. And if possible, the clients can also participate in the BC exercises and test. And again, by demonstrating the industry certifications, the trust within the client can be built. So again, as we just discussed from the previous, control standpoint, the continuous monitoring of the program, the people, process, and technology behind all of these systems, and again, the management support in terms of investments, providing the resources is very important. And one important aspect again is on the integrated risk management approach. So the business continuity related risk management and the information security risk management cannot operate, separately. There has to be an integration of these management system and the processes, and holistically, the organization has to provide the support and continuously monitor the processes and the systems and the outcomes, and demonstrate to the customer to build the trust. So I thought I could take these two controls for a discussion today. So I think I can have another 5 minutes to see if we can take some questions.
Thank you so much, Haripriya. So we can do the 5 minutes Q&A for now. If anyone has any question, please feel free to put it up on the chat box. Is it all right if I take over the screen now?
Yeah, please.
Okay. All right, so if anyone has any, please feel free to use the chat box. You can just type in your questions here. Shailendra has asked a question here. How much this new standard differ from old BCP approach of 2013 standard?
Okay, so I believe it was the 2012 standard. There is nothing different in the BCP approach. The business continuity approach is aligned with the ISO 22301 standard, whether now we have the 2019 standard. So I think the organization has to move away from the 20. Again, there is not much of a difference from the 2012 and 2019, but with reference to the 27001 standard, there is no big difference in the way the organization has to relook into their business continuity program. If I had answered the question.
All right, I hope that answer was suitable. So Anant asked here, what are some best practices for implementing threat intelligence system?
Okay, so as I had just explained, the organization has to look into the internal and the external sources from where they can obtain this information. So I believe there are external, free source platforms, paid services that provide this information. So the organization can sign up to such, other organizations that can provide this information. There are open source platforms. So these are all the way they can get access to such information and build the system. So this is one source from where they can obtain the information. But within the organization, as I said, the organization has to invest in terms of the skills and the technology required to build this platform, and continuously monitor it, enhance it, revise it, and see how effectively this threat intelligence system can help in strengthening the controls and mitigating the risk.
Okay, thank you so much. Here's another question by Saurabh. He asked, ma'am, don't you think that ISO approval process is very slow, especially in this fast changing world, leading ISO 27001 ineffective in dealing with latest challenges?
So, I mean, approval process, do you mean within the organization? Or I'm not able to get the context of where there is a delay in the approval. Is it with the management not providing the approval?
No worries. We can move on, and maybe Saurabh can leave the question on the group, and you can reach back again.
Yeah.
Can we take
So
one more question before we
yes,
leave?
please.
Okay.
There was one question: is SOA still mandatory requirement? I just saw that I can answer. Yes, it is mandatory. I would say it is mandatory because that is one of the critical requirements when you come to implementation, and when the organization goes through the audit. The statement of applicability is very important. And are all 93 controls mandatory? An organization should consider every single control in the standard as mandatory. That is a basic premise. If there is an exception, if the organization is not wanting to implement the control or need not, then the exception has to be very clearly described and explained. Otherwise, every single control is mandatory. Insight into RTO and RPO, that is a big topic, but I can say RTO, there is a SLA, which is a contractual agreement with the customer, and there is so we are supposed to deliver within the SLA, okay? And there is an incident that is going to impact the service. There is a maximum tolerable period of disruption, that is the MTPD, beyond which there could be a force majeure clause, or the customer might say, nothing doing. I cannot tolerate a disruption beyond this particular time. Okay, so the organization knows its boundary beyond which either there will be a penalty or there will be some kind of a financial impact or anything. So they need to recover the services within the MTPD. So they cannot wait until the MTPD and say, okay, I will put down these steps to strategize and the plan so that at this moment I'll be able to recover. That is too big of an ask. So there need to be an internal target called real-time recovery time objective, the RTO, which should be less than the MTPD, and the organization should have the steps to recover within the RTO. I can take one more question.
All right. Okay. Would you like to select the last question?
So what is the transition period? Okay, it's quickly, maybe you can pick one for me. They're quickly
Okay.
Yeah.
So how ISO 20000 is related to ISO 27001? Let's do that.
Okay, so that is a service management process. So the 20K standard is more about the service management, and within the delivery model, the incident management, the capacity management, availability management. So all of these processes are integrated. Now, when these processes are built within the system and executed, what are all the information security controls that need to be brought into? So that is where these two go hand in hand. Okay,
all right. Thank you so much, Haripriya. I suppose you have to go now.
Yes. Leadership is waiting.
We do regret that you have to go, but anyway, we will stay in touch and hopefully we'll get a chance to collaborate with you again. Do you want to leave any closing remarks here?
Yeah, thank you so much. It was a wonderful opportunity that I could use for going in depth into the standard. And thanks everyone for taking your time to join the session and discuss with me, and for all your support. I hope I can find some time to participate in future session. Do let me know basis on availability. I can do that. Once again, thank you very much for organizing this GSDC and IQA. Thank you so much, Setalu, for your support.
Thank you so much again. Thank you from GSDC and IQA team. And yes, we'll definitely see you again. So yes, to those of the participants who could not have their answers questions, I had seen a lot of questions there. You can feel free to join our LinkedIn group and put on your questions there. Our speaker will be checking back in again to answer those questions. So yeah, please join the group. The link is shared on the chat box.
Yeah, sure.
So yes,
I'm on business travel,
so
yeah, I'm on business travel, so I might take little time to respond, but I'll definitely try my best to share my responses. Thank you once again, everyone.
So,
thank you.
Thank you, Haripriya. Bye bye. Have a good time ahead.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. All right. So to the participants, thank you so much for staying with us still here. We will have a quiz round now, and we will be announcing yesterday's quiz winner. So please stay until the end. So we'll just launch the polls right now. You will see the you will see the questions, the polls pop up on your screen. You have 1 minute to answer all the questions. Please feel free to choose any of your answers. We have five questions in total. So all these questions will be given 1 minute each to be answered. Please select any of the answers that you think is correct, and you will get a chance to win a $400 worth GSDC certificate. Okay, we are facing a little bit of technical issue here. Please give us a few minutes to have this rectified. Very sorry about the delay here. We are just rectifying this problem. We will be back soon. Please stay with us. And apologies for the delay. All right. We are facing a bit of a difficulty, a glitch here. So very sorry about this, but we will have to skip the quiz round for today. We will be back with the quiz round for today's session on tomorrow's session. So tomorrow we will be having a panel discussion with some amazing speakers from the IQE team itself and from other guest speakers as well. So after the session, we will host 2 rounds of quiz. So very sorry about this issue, but definitely we'll be back again tomorrow with the quiz for today's session and also for tomorrow's session. So we'll have a 2 quiz round together. So I do hope that everyone will join again tomorrow to have the quiz. And yes, thank you for bearing with us and staying with us till here. And again, as I informed, you can join our LinkedIn group to connect with the speaker. We also have her LinkedIn link, so you can find it on the chat box, the link, and you can connect with her as well. Just before we end here, we wanted to announce the day 3 session winner. So I do request our IQA team member, Nidhi. Yes, you can go ahead and announce the winner for yesterday.
Thanks, Chitalo. So day 3 winner, first of all, congratulations to all the participants. We had a good response yesterday. The winner is Mr. Prashant Gulwadi. So is he there today?
Yes, I do see Prashant Gulwadi. Yes,
congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Prashant. Yes. Thank you, Nidhi. Thank you for the announcement, and congratulations to Prashant. We will get in touch with you on LinkedIn. So we have left the link of our page on the chat box. Do reach out to us, and we will also reach out to you and go ahead with the further process. Again, very big congratulations. Also, everyone, please do join us again tomorrow for today's session's quiz, and again tomorrow's session quiz also we will be having again, and we have a surprise for tomorrow's quiz, so do join us to learn about the surprise. So yeah, we will go ahead and end the session for today. Please do not forget to join our session tomorrow, as we are going to be discussing a lot on the whole summit, on a panel discussion with the IQA team and our guest speakers. So it's going to be another very great, informative and insightful event. So do join, do invite your colleagues as well. Also, please do leave us your valuable feedbacks. The feedback forms will be shared on the chat box. So do leave us your valuable feedbacks. It really helps us in organizing these events. Do check out the GSDC page as well and connect with us on LinkedIn. You can also get in touch with our IQE team partners and have a look at their website as well. So yes, until we see you again tomorrow, I hope everyone has a wonderful day or evening wherever you are from, and please take care. We'll see you again. Thank you so much.